nothing even has to happen from that. Like, how cool is that, man?
Well, I
Like,
got a good
you
feeling
get
right
a
when you
lead,
said
you
that. I
got
mean,
it in front.
that fuels the fire a little
Yeah.
bit. You know what I mean? So if it goes nowhere,
Yeah,
that's
and
one thing.
honestly, statistically, most likely won't. But the
Oh,
fact
right,
that
right.
it was on his table and he saw it, it's a win.
No, yeah, it's a plus.
Yeah.
Right, right. Because statistically, yeah, these things don't go anywhere, but they go into you, and you use that as energy, and you keep evolving and growing as a creator, and just use that whatever wherever you can get it. I appreciate you joining me and putting up with all this new amateurish chaos.
Oh
So, dude,
no.
you've been writing. I know you've been writing for ages, probably for a lifetime. I remember back in 2015 or 16 when we first met,
Hmm.
you were running some Kickstarter campaigns for Solar Flare. You've probably done half a dozen since. You've found time to link up with Scout and take that to the next level, which I'd love to get into. But do you remember your first script that you wrote?
I did, and man, I still have it. I would actually sell it at conventions as like an add-on item. Mainly give it away, like if someone bought like a
Right.
higher dollar item, just to kind of the process. And yeah, compared to what I do now to what I started with, it's night and day. Like I just had all these
Yeah.
ideas and I sat down and I wrote it down and I try to put it into this story mode. And then I bought this book and I recommend it for everybody, even accomplished writers. It's actually a textbook. I didn't find out until later that it was a textbook. It's called the Art of Comic Book Writing. It's by Mark Neese. That's Kneece, and it's a textbook for the Savannah School of Art and Design. And it's great. It has two different points of view: one from just straight up writer like myself, and then one for writer artist combos, which I believe he was both. And it was just phenomenal and something that I had a hard time grasping. I'm not sure if you do this, but write backwards, where you come up with the climaxes, you outline it first. Basically a comic is a 3-act play,
Well, I
and
write. I don't necessarily write backwards. Not to
mhm,
cut you off, but I start thinking about comics, writing comics, or putting together the story. At least for me, is like trying to put a puzzle together while you're in a blizzard. So I'm
that's a
writing.
that's a
I'm
good
not
analogy.
necessarily the writing from the climax back, but I'll
Mhm.
write whatever comes to mind. So I have written the climax or the ending scene first. I've written maybe a random cool idea for an action scene that I've had. I've written
Mhm.
that. Maybe some dialogue if it comes to me, but I'm very sporadic in how I write.
Yeah, I just did it where it was structure, where the first script probably took me 3 months, 4 months to complete, but it was my first one, and I was learning, and there was a lot of rewrites. And now, I mean, if time permitted, I safely say I could come out with a quality piece of work um, in a week. The problem is I just don't have the time. I have two full-time jobs now, it's Scout president and my own financial service practice. Something had to give when you figure in family as well, and that was my writing. I am, in mid-March going up to a cabin with my wife in North Carolina. She has like a virtual vet conference, so I'm going to call it my virtual writing conference. So when she's in the conference, doing CE for her veterinarian school, our veterinarian, just I guess they require CE every year. I'm gonna actually write and finish my upcoming title called Third Wave '99. But yeah, it's the script from what it was originally to what it is now. I start by outlining issues, and then I go back and I do the script, and then the outline is like my cheat sheet.
Yeah, I was going
And
to ask you because you mentioned you can knock out a script in about a
yeah,
week, but that's the script portion. How about the brainstorming that
that
leads
takes
up
a
to
lot
the
longer.
outlining? Yeah, that
Yeah.
stuff. For me, that ferments. That could ferment for well, a year.
Yeah.
Sometimes I was looking at a post today. That was a on Facebook, one of those memories, and it was from
Mhm.
2017. It was from my first post looking for an artist for a title that ended up becoming Jana and the Tower of Want that
Nice.
successfully was pitched um, to Scout Comics, to you guys for
Yeah.
Scoot, the all ages line, and the pitch. I mean, you guys picked it up early 2021, so
Hmm.
that's years, man. That's years from the inception to to finding the artist, finding the letterer, colorist, editor, and collaborating and putting something out there. So yeah, comics overall take a lot of time.
Oh, it really does, man. I love it. The brainstorming. I know we've talked about it in the past. Shit, man. Last time we saw each other was in New York Comic Con 2019.
I was hopping around. Yeah.
Yeah, you had
Comic Con.
Your cane.
The Achilles. Yeah, I had the Achilles. I tore my Achilles. So yeah, it ruptured, and it was probably 5 or 6 months prior to that. So yeah, I came out there. You guys were nice enough to allow me to take some breathers behind the booth. And then we all hung out and went out afterwards, talked comics. No, that was a good time. Hopefully,
we came out with that. That was the Wretches, the New York Comic Con variant.
That was the first, yeah. And then a few months later, it hit. I think it hit right before the pandemic, and then ended in the pandemic. So it was a learning experience for sure, and can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, I can't wait to. And that's what we've been doing here at Scout, is just kind of, I look at it like a chess move, always thinking a few moves ahead, and. What I pride myself on with this company, quite honestly, is we're always thinking about how to take these great ideas and this IP or intellectual property and create as many revenue streams as possible for not only us, but especially for our creators. All of us are creators ourselves. And I think I said it before, and I'll say it again. We're a collective of like-minded creators who, if you succeed, I succeed, and vice versa. And the team that we've built here is it's incredible, man. And that explains our growth. It's not just one person, it's the team. And I think
you guys have a great squad.
Yeah, it's a great squad, and it's ever growing. And I can't be more appreciative of the people that work here, even from our staff at HQ here in Fort Myers, which is something that I would run the web store from my dining room table. And then I had to get a storage unit, and I went back and forth. And then I found this retail place where I got this idea, like Funko Pop, where they had like a showroom of just Funko stuff. And I thought that was Scout. And, with how much we were spending in storage and the growth, it made sense. And now HQ, we have 5 employees that are working essentially, Monday through Friday, fulfilling orders.
Wow.
Not just, for our retail partners, but also direct to consumer.
Building jobs, stimulating the economy.
It's just wild. And, last year there was 1 employee. Now there's 5.
It's amazing.
Wild. It's crazy, man. And just our numbers have been through the roof. And it doesn't look like it's stopping. Just the partnerships that we formed with, from the media side with Mosaic, to the distribution side with Lunar, Simon & Schuster, Diamond, direct to retail, direct to consumer. It's been awesome. And there's so much more stuff on the horizon, so much meat left on the bone, so to speak. I don't know if I told you this, but I have this idea called Scout Marketplace.
No.
It's kind of on our website. We already have something called Marketplace, where we take our creators, someone like yourself, and, just say you have original art, or you have original published books of, say, Wretches, or you have prints or whatnot. If you send it to HQ, we would fulfill it here, and it would be a place for Scout fans to go and grab, their favorite creators and their favorite titles, certain unique things that they can only get there. And it's another way of creating a revenue stream for the company and also our creators.
Was that a digital or in-store or both?
It's going to be digital. And then what we plan on doing is setting up, maybe doing an auction once a month where myself and the team here runs it, where we'll have original art from certain things and special giveaways, maybe even do exclusives. Just for those, that live show to interact, because that's one thing that's been big during the pandemic, is these live Facebook auctions. A lot of comic shops readjusted their whole business plan. It's been very, very successful, some more than they've ever been before. So it's all about adjusting. When the world throws you lemons, you turn them into lemonade, So that's one thing we're looking at doing, just to create that family and really, comics is a labor of love. If it as well as I do. It's a lot of money up front, and it's a long game. We do it essentially, if there's any profit on the stuff, with the success of Wretches, let me guess, you took that money to make more comics, right?
Oh, for sure. It rolls into, or finishing the book. That was that was a big series. That was a long series. So with the Kickstarters that went along with it, we probably broke even, or I probably broke even. And if I made some, it's definitely a little scratch, but that goes to the funding of the next book, the next project.
And the thing about it that's beautiful is that just because you're complete with it doesn't mean that story's done. Meaning there's so many different things. We have the comic tag initiative that I showed. Did I tell you about that?
We talked a little bit, but please.
Yeah, it's like just taking that and creating a new collectible to get it in more eyeballs on this on your amazing series, man. It's great. And then
No, I
hopefully
appreciate
the
that.
deal is going to come through with the script. And there's just so many different things. So comic tags is this idea that we're launching at the end of April. We just sent everything to print. And essentially what it is we've taken, I would say, 4 different business models, and we took the successes of each and formed this hybrid called comic tags. It's a digital collectible card on this little backer that looks like a mini comic book, and on the back of this card is a scratch off that gives you a downloadable code for the trade paperback of the said series. So we're going to apply the model of trading cards and then comic publishing, where they have variant covers, limited editions like holograms, metal, chrome, etc., and give it a cheap price point where most trade paperbacks are between $15 and $30. We're going to be selling all of ours for $6.99 a piece. So you get this collectible
Wow.
card with a digital code for a trade paperback, and it's a low-hanging fruit. Meaning we're going to design it. We have a special countertop display. We're going to have some regular displays as well, but we're launching with a countertop display that shops can just put it right by the register, and it's an impulse buy item where they can grab it. And again, collectability of it is, I think, has the potential to not only put money in our creators' pockets, but we have the ability to really create a whole new revenue stream for all creators. And I think it could help the industry as a whole, because shops for the longest time have, they haven't been able to partake in
In the digital market.
Now this gives them a slice. So it essentially looks like this. It's a 3x5, little booklet that opens up, and then there's a card that's taped to it. And on the card,
It's a unique card itself.
Yep, it's a
Wow.
unique card.
Okay.
We're applying with the great art, different art. It's just, I don't know, man. I'm really excited about it. We launched, I guess, really announced it at the Comics Pro meeting in late February, and retailers were very, very supportive of it. I was ready to kind of get both sides of the story, and there was really not much negative, really any negative, knock on wood. I'm sure some stuff will come up and problems will happen, but it was universally appreciated. Now it's just try to figuring out how to sell it at the distribution level and the retail level. So, I mean, that's just one of the many things that, or two, with the marketplace, that we're looking to help just generate revenue, for the company and our creators.
Right, and the retailers with that digital, with the comics card, was it comics card or comics tags? That's going to help them dip their foot into the that whole other revenue stream. So that's going to be huge for them. It's tough times nowadays for everybody, and shops are falling apart left and right, unfortunately. So that's a huge step for helping them. I remember early on in COVID, you guys were doing at least 50% of your online sales were going to any local comic shop. So those things are huge, man. And also, I want to circle back a little bit to you guys and thinking outside the box. So I think you might be one of few, if one of any, publishers who allow and even encourage your creators to go to crowdfunding either prior or after the release of the book in the direct market, with Scout. Why? And I think you touched on it a little bit. You're a creator yourself. The whole company is made and filled with creators, so the struggle. But what initially, can you speak on what was so important to allow that in this publishing world?
I think because of the direct market, there's a lot of misconceptions that once you get it, I remember myself, that once you get into Diamond, like, the world's changing. It's like, it's going to be like the floodgates of money are going to open up and it's going to be incredible, but it's just not the case. It brings more, it's one revenue stream. And we just look at it. We know this is a labor. I think you said it best. I mean, you essentially answered for me. We're creators ourselves. We know how much of a struggle it is. And quite honestly, we're not greedy. We want our creators to have another revenue stream. We have some guidelines because we want it to be different, a little bit different, where you add,
right,
covers, etc. And there's certain things where, when it comes to talking to shops and doing exclusive covers, we want to be in charge of that as well. But it's just a way to create the books. And like I say all the time, and it's true. And I think that is one of the examples of why it is true, proving the point that we're in this together. So we want to see you make the book. We want to get the book made, and it's a win-win situation. You know, you guys, Kickstarter or crowdfunding allows the creators to create it because it is a labor of love.
Right, you're not going to have a book to publish if
Yeah.
if guys are going broke or not able to finish the book. And nowadays, with the crowdfunding platforms that have come up,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. But is it a myth, or is it still kind of true that that there's overlap in the comic book? So I see the fear of some publishers being that if you go to Kickstarter, you're taking all the customers from the publisher and you're directly harming their sales and you're harming them as a company. Talk about that. Tell me what you think about that overlap, and does it exist?
Some overlap, but I don't think it's as big as everybody thinks it is. And
It's not harmful.
That's the key, is to make it different. Because comics are collectors. I mean, in the industry where there's a 50% average drop between issue 1 and 2, you know what that 50% is? They're collectors. Right? They're diehards.
Right.
So I honestly think, like, if you make it different, even your your fans, and that's what Kickstarter is, the diehard fans, to be honest, they're going to want to support those creators no matter what. So I think a lot of them, I would even, I mean, there's no way to prove this, but I would think the majority do buy both versions.
Yeah.
You know, they almost feel invested in those creators when the creators, I know with my own case, they did. And the direct market just creates another revenue stream. But that's why the digital market's important. You know, this comic tags hopefully opens up to many people who never read comics. Because when we were kids, man, we used to go buy our new comics at the newsstand. The newsstand doesn't exist anymore, right? And most children, I know you have kids too, man, like, that's them.
Yep.
Most of the day. And by the way, honestly, most adults too. Tablets and phones. So how do we get that in front of them? That's the new newsstand, man. The popularity of webtoons, all these free online services. There is a different type of revenue stream that the creators profit from that, and we're just trying to be innovative as a company to try to match that, because I think if you create as many revenue branches as possible, it's successful for everybody. You know, and
it's only going to help.
It really is, and I think a lot of comic publishers use comic books as a loss leader to create storyboards for Hollywood. And I think what we've proved, and knock on wood, this continues over the past few years now, is that we're turning it into a profitable venture without that. And that's where it really becomes profitable, obviously, to a publisher and to a creator, is if it does become something more than just a printed paper, you know?
What do you think of...
I think by catering to both the readers and the collectors, I think that's something that we've done different, and have made it easier for everybody involved. And, you know, our co-publishers, Charlie and David, say this all the time, and I 100% agree with them. And this is why they're in the position they are, is that we're just trying to make and create as many possible ways for retailers and fans to get our books, because we're very proud of every single one that we publish. So like Wretches is not new to me, but it could be new to so many different, as we grow as a company, it's new to everybody. So that title box thing that I kind of teased for you, here, I'll show
the collection box. Yeah.
So what we're doing, it's to help move some of the product that we have. And again, Scout, from when I signed Solar Flare back in 2017, it's a totally different company than it was then. You know, the reach that we have now compared to then, I would have loved to release it now. And I'm sure the same goes for you. When you originally had it, if it was what it is today, then when Wretches first came out, it's just night and day. And I hope to continue to say that, because that means we're growing. But I want to take a lot of these classic titles that we have, and these new eyeballs that are now on Scout for the very first time, I want them to know, is like, hey, listen, you need to check out our back catalog. We got some quality stuff that just happened to be released prior to you knowing about us. And one of those ways is these title boxes that we've created. These are Gemini mailers. Inside it, we added the concept of a mystery box. So there'll be some variants and sometimes exclusives, like we're doing holofoils, randomly put in some of these that you can only get them in these boxes. But it's the complete set of Zinniber. Zinniber is a 7-issue series with a one-shot. So you know, by purchasing this box, you're going to get the full series, hopefully some cool, you know, random variants, which is that mystery box element. And then on top of it, we're going to be putting a comic tag in it. And the comic tag, like I said earlier, is the digital collection. So you pretty much get everything here. And we're doing this for pretty much all of our titles. And they'll be limited from anywhere between 100 to 300, somewhere in that area. And we're going to be doing it going forward as well. We're printing an extra 250 at the very least of all of our series going forward. And eventually they'll be released in these title boxes. So
Dude,
I think
that's amazing.
conventions exist. Again, like this will be huge. We have trade paperbacks and these title boxes. And what's going to be cool is we bought these regular boxes to put the title boxes in. And we're going to bring a printer. So if you're at a convention and you buy this Zinniber box and you're like, man, I live in, I'm in New York, but I live in Seattle, right? We can literally be like, all right, well, pay for shipping. We put it in a box, collect the label on it, and they can just put it in the mail. So they're and guess what? It's protected because it's a Gemini.
Yeah, it'll beat you back home. It'll be waiting on the doorstep when you get back.
So you don't have to travel.
That's great, man. That's a great idea.
Yeah, man. It's always thinking out of the box, and like I said earlier, it's chess moves. We're planning for conventions to come back. When will that be? I don't know. I know they're slowly coming back, but we want to be safe before we jump into it. And when they eventually do, we're going to be set, for this growth, because quite honestly, that was part of our business plan. We thought conventions was going to be a huge revenue stream for us. And guess what? It was nothing last year.
Right.
It's probably not going to be nothing this year too. Yet we still doubled, our revenue from the previous year. It's pretty incredible. And that's all about adapting. But I still, I'm very bullish on what conventions will be in the future. And we're just planning accordingly. I mean, there's going to be 55 different boxes as of right now. That's how many we had printed. Unique boxes, and now it's just putting them together and getting them ready for the plan is to do a press release, I'd say every 2 weeks,
and push a new title.
So there'll be one for Wretches that basically does the log line like it's a brand new title,
right?
And I think our creators deserve that, man. You don't have to feel like the forgotten child.
Well, I think, no, it's a good point, because that goes back to you saying you're constantly, and as people, we should constantly be evolving. As a business, you're constantly evolving, stick and move. Yep. You got to roll and adapt. And that even goes to the recent, I think, the Simon & Schuster deal that I think you guys have done in the last year. Having a book that might come out in 2022, you're going through the initial phases of the Simon & Schuster deal, figuring out what they like to receive, how to get it to them, how to game the system, I guess, so to speak, and get it in front of the right people. So people who've had books such as Wretches from a year or two ago are going to start capitalizing. And if you have a book coming out in 2022, you guys would have done that hard work and been in the pits or the trenches, so to speak, getting it to where it needs to be. And then people are just going to capitalize on it in 2022. And then I'm sure by then you'll have a new revenue stream, new connections, and just keep it moving. So that's definitely dope to hear. What do you think about so in Kickstarter? I think it was last year. Our buddy, your friend and mine, Keanu Reeves, is on Kickstarter now. So he launched an amazingly successful title. How do you feel about a publisher like going to that extent and using crowdfunding to complete a book?
I think it makes sense. I think it's the natural progression. I'm surprised it hasn't happened earlier. Let's be honest. To have that role, I mean, they eliminate a lot of the middlemen. And I know that sounds, comic shops don't want to hear that, but that's the truth from a business standpoint, right? It's a less of a cost. They went direct to consumer. It's going to be interesting to see, because of this success, are they going to, I mean, it as well as I do, fulfillment's a whole nother animal, right? And are they prepared for fulfillment?
Yeah, is Keanu going to be there bagging, boxing, and boarding books? Or do you think he's going to be...
No,
Mr. Reeves going to be out there?
He's got people for that, I imagine. But
I don't think he's...
Fulfillment, how it works. And, I'm really curious to see how that's going to work in the direct market, too. I could be wrong, but from what I gathered...
I think it released...
I think individual issues for number one, the print run is like $650K. Like, it's unbelievable. It's
for that book?
Yeah. It's the biggest independent title for a long, long time, print run.
And they went to Kickstarter first. They brought eyes and they brought people to Kickstarter for the collection, right, for the graphic novel. So we talked about before the overlapping of revenue streams that people are worried about. But now Boom is proving it. I mean, they have a massive star behind them, right? And I think other guys, other well-known artists and creators can go there and make a killing and then cross over to direct market no problem because of their name. But yeah, man, I didn't know they did those numbers for issue 1.
Yeah, they
massive.
It is massive, but here's the thing, man. And this is, I think they had to do it to cater to the collectors, or excuse me, to the comic stores, so they wouldn't poo-poo on the idea of them going first to Kickstarter. But I don't know if you knew this, but issue 1 is 100% affidavit returnable.
No.
So, and they have exclusive covers. Like there's a 1 in 1,000 variant, I believe that's signed by Keanu. They're, again, how many of, knowing that it's, you know what affidavit is, right? Where they just sign a piece of paper and they don't have to actually physically remove the cover or send it back to them. They just say, they sign an agreement that says that they will destroy the book. So I think it's a little misleading with the 650, because I have a feeling, knowing that, there's going to be a lot of shops who order, 5,000 to get those exclusives, and they'll return the rest. So I think there might be a hefty return on those, man, like 500,000. But I think Keanu and Boom look at it this way, as like, it's essentially an advertising cost for them.
Right. Is it lining Keanu's pockets? I mean, I don't think, the campaign funds are really, he's worried about those. Yeah, that's how I saw it too, as more of a, I don't want to say a marketing ploy, but it's something in that world, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's safe to say that at least 500,000 of those things are going to be returned.
Yeah.
Or at least they're maybe not returned physically, obviously, but returned as in like credited. So I'm not sure if that's, I don't know.
Burnt.
They have a lot of smart guys behind them, and I'm sure they have a lot of money. But that seems to me, as from a businessman point of view, that's kind of crazy, to have that. But I guess if you're looking to turn it into a film and a movie, and you have a big star like that, I think it's just considered a loss. It's or you chalk it up under an advertising cost,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's only going to help Kickstarter, the bigger publishers going. I know Skybound's done it with a few.
Yeah, I think they're on there right now doing it with a title.
Yeah, Excellence, I believe.
Yes, Excellence.
And it's grossing tons of money, I think more than it did in the direct market. So I see that happening more and more frequently. I know a lot of Kickstarter creators are a little anti it, but I'm more of a glass is half full kind of guy. And I think it just brings more people to Kickstarter, as long as they fulfill it correctly. And I think they have to, in order to maintain,
Right. So as long as they don't damage and break the hearts of all the people who just came, new memberships to Kickstarter. Now, if their first experience is, dog crap.
Yeah, hopefully it's
going to ruin it for everybody else.
Time will tell. I think it will be. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, have they started fulfilling those hardcovers yet? I don't think so.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I know so issue 1 was only in stands, or it released probably a couple of weeks ago, right? Maybe last week, if it was. Yeah. Those are crazy numbers, man. I didn't.
Yeah, it's insane. It really is insane. But Kickstarter is great. I mean, it's something that we as a company are probably going to shift towards, but more for newer things, meaning like we'll let our creators do it, but for like concepts where, our company is creator owned, like you, me, we own 100% of our copyright. When we get into the trenches, so to speak, with Hollywood, it's ultimately our decision, not Scouts. Scouts just represents us.
Right. And yeah, they're the quote unquote, they act as the agent, right? So,
and both of us have, personally have reaped the benefits of Scouts multimedia coverage, so to speak. And I'll tell you, I don't know if I've told you this before, but that deal with Mosaic is probably the biggest thing that we've done, period. And it's going to reap the most rewards of any of these new announcements that we've had. To be managed by a company like that, it's not only just a management company, but also a very large producer that was instrumental in the careers of Jim Carrey, Will Ferrell, Judd Apatow, Tim Allen. I mean, the list goes on. And they manage and represent us, and they see us as like Judd Apatow, as helping us build and being self-sufficient, where we become instead of optioning our stuff to actually producing and filming and doing our own, making Scout a production company. The future is very, very bright, my friend.
So how does that work? So how often do you, every X amount of time, take your entire portfolio, go in a room, a smoke-filled room, shut the doors of the blinds, and kind of go over what you've been up to, what you've done in the past, what you're doing in the future, give it to a few guys around the table, talk about it. So you do that yearly, quarterly?
We do it quarterly. We have a cheat sheet, little IP catalog. So once you sign your book, like we just collected for yours, and it's just, a paragraph pitch. This meets this cover.
It's essentially a little pitch document, but maybe more catered to that
Yep, and we'll
that media stream.
Curated catalogs for particular stuff. Like, our main rep is Patrick Newman. Patrick will be like, "Hey, listen, we're going into Nickelodeon. What
do you
title
got?
do you have that makes sense? Where we have this meeting with such and such." And we're like, "All right." And obviously, COVID makes it a little bit harder. That smoke-filled dark room hasn't happened since September of 2019, but it will happen again. But we're just to get a little bit in the weeds. We have the general.
No, it's good. There's a lot of behind the scenes, so that's why I wanted to ask, because this is something I want to know. But I'm sure any and everybody listening who has aspirations to write comics, see them taken to another level, they want to know these things. So I appreciate it.
It's awesome, and it's just applying marketing techniques, man. And we have the big catalog. We'll do curated catalogs, but really, what we're gonna do, and it's like picking your favorite children. We're not gonna do that because all of our children are favorite. And my point of view is we're gonna pick like 10 a year that we have, and we're going to start making official pitch documents. Because you have to understand, where we have the benefit as comic creators is Hollywood for the longest time, scripts, right? How do you make yourself different in a script when it's white paper with black ink, right? And it's not very appealing to read. You just stare at
with glitter.
Yeah. We have storyboards, man. And that's one thing I've talked with Mosaic in great detail, is like, I think we have a competitive advantage. A company like Scout, we have these amazing storyboards that are complete. On top of it, we have merchandise with some of the stuff. So I'm an example.
When you say storyboard, are you just referring to a page, like a sequential page?
No, multiple pages. We have
right. Okay. I don't know if you meant
6 issues.
Something broken down differently, but yeah, the actual page. Sure.
Solar Flare, I got 18 issues, man.
Yeah, like that, you got a lot of awesomeness to choose from.
Yeah. So I'm going to use Stabbity Bunny as an example, because if Stabbity Bunny, like, I think it'll be a CW type of show someday. It's Supernatural meets Taken with all female leads. And you've seen it, Richard, that bunny on the convention level, people are obsessed with it. Yeah. So our idea is to come up with a pitch, right? Basically how a TV show would work, or how a movie would work, like a PowerPoint slides. Explain who the characters are, right? Give each person in the room, imagine that smoke-filled room, right? You go in there, I put on this little PowerPoint. I don't read slide for slide. I just use it as a reference. I give them a packet with the printed out slides with art and all this cool stuff on it. Give them for their records. Do a quick 5-minute pitch. Give them the graphic novel, and give them a plush bunny. And say, hey, listen, this is the next big thing. That iconic bloody smiley face with a bunny in it, that's your $1 million movie poster. That poster alone will generate millions of dollars, in my opinion. I've seen it on the convention level where people, 300 yards on the other end of the room gravitate towards that. And what is Stabbity Bunny? And then give them
an iconic image, for sure.
A Stabbity Bunny. To me, that's how we sell it. And it's going to be sold. And I think we're going to do that with a lot of our books. Obviously, the ones that are more complete, that makes more sense because we can give them the full trade. Essentially, there's 2 trades for it. That to me is better than like, hey, this is a great script. Read it.
You have one foot in the door.
Script. Here's the comic book. Here's some merchandise. So they're thinking big picture.
Right. They can rationalize and wrap their heads around it.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a similar approach to, going back to crowdfunding or Kickstarter or a pitch to a publisher. The more you have in that packet, the character descriptions with, their own unique designs, that's one page. 4 or 5 sequential pages for people to get a feel of the rhythm and your storytelling and the artwork and how it all merges. A single page with a short log line, synopsis, a little bit of a thicker outline in there. But the more you have, going back to your point, it's only going to help, whether it's those other avenues or going into a different media venue like that. It's just that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So we have this whole marketing idea on how we're going to do it. There's some guys, literally, that's all they want.
I feel like you're foaming at the mouth right now. You want to get in there and pitch. You want to pitch something.
I can't.
Have you been able to do any of this digitally, or I'm sure not as well or not as much?
Yeah, it's
you need to be in there.
Like having that, like having physical stuff. I mean, right now we send a lot of PDFs to those people who are interested.
Yeah,
it works. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff. you and me both have that's how it worked. But I
Right.
really think if we have a competitive advantage, we have tools that other people don't have. Let's start using them. That's my point of view.
Yeah.
And just prepping for it. Now we have the powerhouse that is Mosaic, who have those even deeper connections than we have, and have people that will help us or even do it. I mean, we can provide it. Like Patrick, Patrick Newman. I've formed such a strong friendship with him over the past year, and yeah, it's pretty amazing, man. Like just I'm very, very, very excited. And like I said, if you win, I win. Like with Stabity Bunny, like I'm not doing it with my own book. Like that's the first one I want to do because it's quality. I know it's going to sell. Like Richard's one of my best friends. I mean, if that, not if, when that gets picked up, I'm going to be just as excited as when my own got picked up. The same thing with your book. When your book got picked up, I was just as excited as if it was my own. And I know some people might not believe it, but it's true.
No, I do believe it. That's genuine because you've told me that before. And
Yeah.
before it got picked up, when it was still on the Kickstarter circuit, or I think when I came by your New York Comic Con booth maybe in 2018 or 17, you gave me props. You told me you wanted it there. And, I wasn't ready to pitch it around. But when I did, yeah, you picked it up and ran with it. So I appreciate that. And I
Oh, of
do,
course, man.
I believe those words. They're definitely genuine. Dude, we've been talking about different pitches, us giving pitches. When you see a pitch, what is a must have? What are some green check marks, things that tick the box for you personally when somebody pitches a new IP to you for comic publication?
Log line, paragraph pitch, this meets this, and then art. Brendan said it the best, man. Art gets you in the door, story keeps you
Oh
there.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
one thing that we do need now that I'm, and this is tip of the hat to Charlie, is we do need to have scripts because we need to see where it's going. We need to see the quality of the writing, how much work that's in there, and we have an amazing editorial team now that we didn't have before, where we have people like Andrea and Nicole and Richard, I mean Wayne. The list goes on of people that can really help curate.
And this is
The,
all within the last year,
yeah,
right? I mean, if that, yeah,
last
because
year, man.
we didn't have with Wretches, it was, I was
I know.
talking directly to you guys. And now with Jana, I've got several people coming in with giving me homework, but in a good way, things
Yeah.
that where I might have floundered or been thinking about in the past, everything's ironed out. So it's really becoming
Yeah.
structured and I'm digging it.
Yeah, that's exactly what we have to do. We're going to be on so many different platforms. Part of it is collecting metadata for the Simon and Schusters, for the Comixologies, for the Comics Plus, the Hoopla. The list goes on. And so when we sign a book, it's not as simply as like, all right, we'll be in touch. It's like, here's the laundry list of things that we need from you. And it behooves you to get these as soon as possible because number one, even if the book's not fully complete, we can throw that in that IP brochure. We've sold
Especially
things.
if you have a good amount of pages,
Yeah.
going back to having the artwork and using that for a pitch, either to a publisher to get the contract or to write a Simon and Schuster or
Well, the
Mosaic.
IP catalog. We've sold.
Right.
We've had stuff that has been sold that's not released yet because it's not complete or close
Yeah.
to being
Wow.
complete. That's already been optioned or under a shopping agreement with some pretty big names, which is pretty amazing because we're getting to the point now where we're developing that reputation of putting out quality things that you don't even need that stuff. So I tell creators this, and if anyone's listening, if you do submit or you do get picked up by Scout, get that stuff immediately. When when your team that you're signed and will be working like family, like get that stuff to them because we send those updates. We have a huge list of contacts that we send the updates immediately, and you'd be surprised how quick, and believe me, there's nothing that motivates you more than your idea getting picked up before you even completed it. There's like I've
Oh,
experienced
that's crazy.
myself, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. And it's like, man, I need to work on this.
Well, having it get picked up, period, is
Oh,
one thing, but having the seed take over and get planted in somebody else's mind with just a pitch and just a little bit of artwork and not even the full project. I mean, that's got to be an amazing feeling.
well,
Have somebody trust in what you're doing.
I don't think I've ever told you this, but they recently met with the head of Sony, Mosaic, and there's like 8 titles that like Mosaic earmarked. And I say recently, this is a little bit ago, but Wretches was one of them. Where
Wow.
he wanted to see it. So to me, solar flare was one of them for me. And I look at it like,
Good for you. That's awesome.
nothing even has to happen from that. Like, how cool is that, man?
Well, I
Like,
got a good feeling right when you said that. I mean,
got it.
that fuels the fire a little bit. You know what I mean? That makes it, for I don't know about you, but when I finish a project, I might look back on it and be like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. So when you hear things like that, I mean, it just helps you to keep going. And I think you talked about it earlier, that 10,000 hours thing. Like, you got to just keep plugging away and plugging away and plugging away. But yeah, hearing that just now gave me some butterflies. So if it goes nowhere, that's one thing.
Statistically, most likely won't. But the fact
right.
it's on his table and he saw it.
Yeah.
It's a win, man. It's a win.
No, yeah, it's a plus. Right. Because statistically, yeah, these things don't go anywhere, but they go into you, and you use that as energy, and you keep evolving and growing as a creator, and just use that wherever you can get it. So I got that. My first way of getting that kind of a vibe or interest in something I've done, I think, is when my first short story was picked up to be published in an anthology in 2015. That little bit of somebody believing or digging what you're doing, especially in this comics game that take forever and ever to get done. Those little seeds and those little things are what you build your road to progression on. Not to sound like a motivation. Is it Monday? Is it motivational Monday?
No, Tuesday.
Not to go down that route, but
Tuesdays, right?
I'm harnessing my inner Gary V, or some, maybe not Gary V, but The Rock, and
Anthony
going on a tangent. But yeah, man, these little things help form the road that you got to keep going down. So yeah, I appreciate you dropping that little tidbit here, and it's awesome, man.
If I would have told 2015 James, that's you or me, that, hey, do you know in 2021 or 2020 that the head of Sony was presented your book where he actually looked at it?
Yeah,
what would 2015 either of us have done? Like, oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
I mean, any
keep writing.
It's amazing. Yeah, just like, hey, you're on the right track, man.
Yeah, I think when you first start out, I mean, like, comics is such a wide open thing that when you first start out, I mean, in my mind, it was and I recommend to other people, it's always just keep going, just keep doing it. It becomes burdensome. It becomes financially burdensome. It's tough, especially for, it's for everybody. But as a writer, you're essentially the producer of the project. So things like crowdfunding are huge. And the fact that a company like Scout is starting to allow the creators to go to crowdfunding, and then they'll also publish the book. I mean, I think that's the next level help for the creators. But just, as a creator, you just got to keep going and look, figure if you put in the 10,000 hours, if you keep doing it for years and years, and you maybe 5-10 years down the road, you'll get somewhere. I mean, that drove me early on, and I think it continues to drive me,
I know it sounds cliche, but this is a marathon, man. It's not a sprint. Got to remind you.
Yeah, no, well said.
We've all been in that situation where, patience is a virtue, and I wish I had more of it. Part of it what drives me is not having patience, so that it makes me to keep coming up with ideas and implementing it and following through. But that's a constant struggle, man. It's to be patient and realize that sometimes it's a marathon. And quite honestly too, and I would recommend this for everybody, stop and smell the roses sometimes. Reflect on what you were the year before, and if you see improvement, I mean, you're winning. And I've done that every year, and the improvement of not just myself but the company has just it's been huge. And by the way, I say this a lot, but I can't stress this enough. We did all this with no funding. Like, no funding. This is like-minded individuals essentially volunteering their time to create this collective. And I really feel that's going to change soon. We are now structured to take on funding, and we, again, lean and mean, man. That's how you run a business. And when we do get funding, if we implement a lot of the ideas that we created when we had no funding and stay to those principles, the growth potential is unbelievable. So I truly feel next year at this time when I'm sitting at this desk, I really think it's going to be that much more of an improvement than it was the previous year. I mean, hell, man, we grew so much in the pandemic, for goodness sake. Like, that's mind-blowing.
That's taking away one of the major revenue streams, that everyone suffered from, losing out the year. Well,
And
That's a great point. Yeah, the two biggest streams. So adapting, and it's something everyone had to do. And I mean, I see it from you guys. I see all the moves. I'm looking all over. I'm looking at what everyone, individual creators, have been up to, and trying to learn and grow, and adapt and take and borrow. What they've done and what they're doing. And you guys are definitely, and not to be cheesy, but inspirational in that you guys are just creators, just trying to make things happen. You're using your creativity. You've melded it with the business sense, which is just becoming huge with all these different ideas that you've given us today. We've talked about how long it takes to get anywhere. In all these hiccups, maybe during COVID or prior, was there ever like a fork in the road, or a moment where you thought about quitting?
For sure. Just, there's certain scenarios where you're just like, am I doing that? Like, I don't know if it's public knowledge, but dude, I haven't taken a dime from Scout. And if you look at how many hours that I put into it, I mean, I might be I have ownership of it now, and it was not an easy task to get this ownership, to get it structured properly and whatnot, but I haven't taken a penny. And again, could be the smartest thing ever, the dumbest thing ever. I know about 3 years ago, I went all in, put all my chips on the table. So yeah, you question it when you have that conversation with your wife, when you're working until 10 o'clock at night, fulfilling books. Cause I used to do all the fulfillment myself. Again, I didn't take any money, and I still haven't. I think one day I will. I have to.
Well, it's the investment. You're investing in yourself and your belief in the company as a whole. So that's a heavy, and it's probably a burdensome thing. That's got to lie. But I think you're doing it for a reason, right? You see where it's going to go, and you're going to take it there. So that's I'm with you.
So yes, it happens a lot less frequently. Thanks to when you see the growth, when you have an idea and it's implemented. I compare it to creating like a comic. I'm helping create a company. It's like that one step, beyond that. But a lot of people, we give the perception that we're this huge company, and I can't stress this enough. We are, and it's because we're volunteering right now because we believe in it. And in any kind of business, when you actually have skin in the game, meaning you have ownership, and it's a big difference. I mean, you put pride in your work. I think it's tough enough to get quality workers when you're paying them, but to get so many people to believe in what we're doing, and it's just incredible. So yeah, I think the end result is going to be worth it. But yeah, there's, to answer your question in a long-winded way, yeah, there was times, and they're much fewer lately, despite putting in, I mean, thank goodness I do have another job that I'm very successful at, which allows me to do it. But, going full circle, that something did have to give, and that was my writing. But I take a lot of pleasure in creating revenue streams for the creators that, I'm honestly representing, in these stories. I can't stress enough. I love comics. I love them. I mean, everything that we publish, if I wasn't part of Scout, I would be buying it monthly. And the stuff that we're coming out with is stuff that I personally would buy myself. With Tracker Collectibles, with the collectible line that we're doing, like just the cool ideas like metal covers and like legendary editions where they're like art books. It's all stuff that I personally would buy. So I am living the dream, but the cost of it is, it's a lot of time, man.
Yeah, it costs. Yeah, exactly. It's an expensive dream if time is the currency.
And time is money. I could be focusing on other things that would generate money personally for myself. And I just feel it's like a blessing. I haven't had to do that. I haven't had to take money from Scout because of, other areas. I've been blessed for that, and hopefully that remains. But things will, it's been a hell of a ride, man. It's been fun. There's been ups and downs, but there's definitely been more ups than there is downs.
No, right on, and that comes with sticking with it and having that vision and foresight and not stopping.
Well, when you look at great stories, man, like it's not exactly the success that everybody loves. It's like how you got there. So I hope to have the success story of Scout one day, and they realize like, oh man, you did all of this all that time, and you didn't take a dime, and you were just like spent hours at conventions representing, Scout and not your own. I was like, yeah, because when you believe in something, it's more than just me, I don't know.
No, I'm with you, man. And you're taking all of that, all of those, the currency of time and whatever value you could have taken, and it's going right back into the company, and it's just helping to build it. And I think it's evident, for what it's worth. It's definitely evident, from my point of view.
Well, that's good, man. That's good to hear. It's nice to hear that sometimes, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. Dude, I think we're touching in an hour. This is awesome, man. I definitely appreciate the time. One last, or maybe one or two last things. What would be your first bit of advice? And you've given plenty of advice so far, but for a new writer, what's the main first thing you would say on the laundry list of things? But what would be the top thing you'd say?
Read as much writing about comic books as possible. Brian Michael Bendis has a great book. The Power.
Yeah, I have it over here somewhere.
Yeah, like I'm telling you, Alan Moore has one, but that Mark Neese Art of Comic Book Writing, it's $17 on Amazon. Do it. Practice. Write. There's no wrong way of doing it. Take advice. A new writer, get an editor. An editor is so important, man. It really is.
It's very big.
Something I learned. Luckily, I stumbled upon it. Like I said, Michael Legacy was a letterer, but he was also an editor. And I had no editor. I didn't even realize that was part of the equation, honestly. And like he was so helpful. And again, if he's listening to this, thanks again, man. Like he was so huge in helping me story structure. So that's what I would learn as much about structure. Just keep writing.
No, that's great advice. And to the editoring point, I couldn't agree more. That helped me take my game to the next level. Now I find myself writing for the editor. I want them to take a look at it, and
and
not send it back with a lot of red lines, but when they do, right, take that criticism, because that just helps you grow. It's helped me grow, and you've got to use that. You've got to use the criticism, rejection, whatever you want to call it, but you have to, because it's just going to help you grow. I mean, there's no easier way to grow than dropping the ball and failing a little bit and learning from what you effed up on, and don't do it again and rinse and repeat afterwards.
And the job of a good editor is to take a three-star story and make it 4. And that should be, I mean, as a writer, isn't that what you want? And it's an interesting approach too. I learned a lot from co-writing with Don Hanfield. He's one of our partners now, and he's, a huge laundry list of successes in Hollywood.
Yeah, I know Don.
Just about how it works in a writer's room, in Hollywood, where it's like you check your ego at the door. And a great writer's room is like you have someone who's like a jury foreman, and you have a group of writers, and the goal is to sit in this room for weeks on end to write like a season of TV or to hammer out a script. It's mainly TV. And the goal is like, listen, it's to make the best story. Check your ego at the door. It could be your idea, it could be mine. This is ours. And the goal is to make this the best possible story. There's certain hills that you want to die on. There's certain hills you just let go and you adapt. And I learned so much from him when we did them all together. And it's, again, any aspirations to write in Hollywood, that's something that you have to understand. You have to be a team player. You really do. And learn and accept criticism. That's it. And just try to adjust.
Yeah, even in comics, I mean, it's a collaboration, so you have multiple parties in play. You are the quote unquote, you're the writer, but your script shouldn't be set in stone, right? You want to have the artist be able to flow freely and take what you're writing down, but let that inspire him to maybe change the angle. Don't be so hell bent on revenge if he changes the angle of a panel. Like it's all for the betterment of the story. I mean, the story, the best idea wins, and that's just how it should be. So yeah, dude, great advice
for beginning writers. Remember, you want the artist to do their job, not their job, what they excel at, essentially, which is to show. Instead of saying like, hey, look, man, look at that tree over there. Just have write it where in the little caption, not even in the caption, but tell your artist, have the character pointing at a tree.
Yeah. Yeah, or have it in the background, or however you want to do the storytelling. But
so there's little things that a lot of novice writers just have to learn. But again, those books help you take care of that. It's just structuring properly. That's all.
Yeah, and you learn by doing, right? I mean, we talked about messing up and rinse and repeat. Like the first book or the first script I wrote, was a 120-page graphic novel, and I paid for the artwork, and we finished about half of it, before the artist fled town. But I printed that half. I mean, the concept is still pretty good. I like it. I might dust it off and redo it. But in reading it, there's so many mistakes. I mean, the pacing, it's just the overall storytelling. So yeah, the moral is just keep on doing it. Don't stop. You learn from messing up, but don't be afraid to mess up either.
Yeah, because guess what? Most people didn't do what you just did, which is create a graphic novel. You took the time and do it. That's an accomplishment in its own. No one can tell you that you're a failure if you do something. You came up with an idea and you executed it. I mean, that you're ahead of so many people just from that aspect alone. So yeah, that's what I would leave everybody with, is just keep doing. Always try to perfect your craft, be open to criticism, and just try to be a good human being. Help people out. I think you've experienced the same thing. One thing I really do like about this industry as a whole is it's a very pay it forward type of industry. And that's what I'd like to do as well. Is like if people come up to me, it was a lot easier, obviously, in a non-COVID era time where people come up to me at shows and I would help out. Certain people that I've known who's in the industry are looking to write, like I'll give them, a copy of my outline and then my script and then the finished comic. And it's like, this is how I did it. If this helps you, here, this is how I do it. And I've had success. Take it, make it your own. I mean, just pay it forward. I think that's just really any successful career. That's part part of the is to be good to others, really.
That's awesome, man. It's a formula for life. So
yep.
Let's leave with that. James Haick, I definitely appreciate it, brother.
No problem, man.
Where can people find any and all things Scout, James?
Scoutcomics.com, on Twitter, twitter.com/scoutcomics, and then Facebook, Instagram, or on all the social media channels. I would recommend to people, I think it's one of the coolest things is getting our monthly subscription box. For $33.99 a month, you get up to 12 books, and it's all the stuff that we have. And I'll tell you, you will not be disappointed. And as far as myself personally, I mean, I'm pretty much handle a lot of those. You can just @ James Haick, and I reach out again, try out one of our books. I think it's incredible. You will not be disappointed. We have something for everybody. Just know it's quality storytelling and quality art. That's the key to a Scout comic.